That is enormous and welcome everybody. I didn't plan for this eventuality.
When do we plan and prepare? Oh boy.
Edit transform 960 by 540. Guy will be back with us. Normally we would have the guest, but something happened. Maybe the internet went out. I don't know, but he'll be back in a sec.
Broke the camera.
Oh, Logitech for the win. As per usual, go leave a like and subscribe if you haven't yet already. If you want a guaranteed answer to your question and or topic, a super chat is always open and much appreciated. It literally keeps the light on for me, and probably in England too. Then we have our usual shilling of the skinny plays. And I have a link and a discount code. With the discount code, you get 10% off of any purchase, which is rather nice. Pop that in chat. Follow us on our social medias and stuff. Those are down below. Come join our Discord if you manage to figure out how it works, because it took me a while for a bit too. But it's good fun, and you'll be the first to know the good and the bad news. And what else? Oh, yeah, I'll pull it up and go visit Prestige Creators, because they make good stuff for older B&O gear, and also have a bunch of Beolab 8000 wall brackets if you need some. So that's it for the shilling. Oh, we have Substack too. Come join our Substack if you don't want to look at us. Bloody hell, I should automate this, and I promised I would. But
you've said it for a while now. I think it's time to man up and do it.
Yeah, well,
I think you gotta burn a half a day on it or something.
You know, part of the problem actually is that I wanted to surprise Steve and make an ad for his cables, because they're fucking fantastic. But his website has been geo-blocked for so long, I put it off.
Oh God, that's funny. Well, you should still do our shit, I guess, or your
Yeah,
shit.
I'll guess I'll do that during the week somewhere. But yeah, if you don't want to look at our faces, go to Substack and you can listen and watch it. And the RSS feed works in your Apple podcast and that sort of thing too. So yeah. Welcome, Guy. How are you?
I'm well,
Hey, man.
thank you, Michael. I'm Willie. Hi. Thanks for
Welcome to the
inviting me on.
podcast.
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Well,
So-
it's not every day that somebody can annoy Willie with working 90s.
Fuck. You know how much I miss mine. It's not even funny. We got the 50 set up, and it's like half the power, anyways, or comparatively at least.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
It's not.
still-
It's
It's not the
the
same.
it's the sculptural aspects of them, eh? It's
Yes, that's right.
I mean, I've got a pretty small, compact living room compared to many people. Certainly, compared to Michael's there, and they don't get in the way, even though they're massive. And they're quite sculptural. They're sort of highlights of the room, and
Yes.
they're very, very easy to get on with. Despite their huge size.
I'm constantly being told that they're too big for this room, and I don't agree, but I have to abide by what's being said.
You can be right or you can be happy, right? So
They're big, but they're not. They don't feel big. They don't like take up a huge amount of room. So this is here we go. This is just one angle. I can't give any more on the camera, but even though the room's pretty small, it's the lounge is 3.5 meters by 6 meters.
Mhm.
They don't actually occupy any meaningful space. It's
They're in the corner, yes.
so they're in one corner and one's in the middle of a long wall. But it doesn't. They're not obtrusive. It's despite their bulk, it's a real plus for the B&O design. And sculpturally, they look pretty nice.
It's funny because when I had those black ones, I really liked looking at them because of how present they were in the room. But once I had swapped them for the white, I liked how much they disappeared into the room, even though they're a massive speaker.
Oh, I'd love a pair. I'd love a pair of white speakers. But I think the last time I inquired about it, I think they were looking for about €7,000 or something silly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was expensive. At the time, I don't think mine fell into the bespoke, but soon after it did, and now it's all bespoke deal.
Yeah, it was
And-
just an option when you bought yours, you lucky bastard. It's just a box of
6
sticks, and the price was the same.
6 years ago.
Well, I think mine were the fourth pair of Beolab 90s in the country. So
That's awesome.
I got mine right at the get-go.
I have the first ones in the world in white. I freaking waited 3 months for them too. And now I'm waiting for the walnut grill to swap for that oak.
Yeah, I was in a different flat, different apartment, and I sent my dealer at the time all the photographs and dimensions of the ramp getting into the building, the lift size, the door sizes for the lift. I sent him all the information, and of course, this thing just rocks up in a back of a DFS truck.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy says, "There you are, your problem." And I thought, "Oh, great." And anyway, we managed to drag them up into the building, and of course, the boxes don't go through any doors. So
Not your English style doors, no.
No. So B&O spend all this time designing every single little aspect, apart from the fact half their equipment now won't go through doors.
It's like Russians built a tank, they couldn't get it out of the factory. So they went the other way. You can't get it in the house. Yeah, even here, like in Montreal, you can't. There's no way that if somebody purchased those speakers that you're getting them in the house, other than taking out the whole door frame and you're cutting the railing off, right? Because it's just a little spiral staircase that's impossible. You'd have to get one of those, forklifts to put it in, or if not, a crane. And apparently every now and then you see that there's a piano being craned up to an apartment top penthouse somewhere. It's a little different in Calgary, I guess, because we got bigger doors, but here it's just, it's narrow.
Well, where I'm living now is quite an old building. There's no lift, and we're two floors up. One's quite a,
That's a dick move, bro. Oh my god!
It's a pretty easy move to go from the ground floor up a steel floor, and then once you get onto our floor, you've got to go in through like a sort of lower room, and then there's like a bent spiral staircase, and like humping those up.
Oh
14,
my god!
Yeah.
Wow.
We've got, I've got all the gear. I've got the pad eyes, the screw pad eyes, the M8s, some lifting harnesses and everything else. But man,
it's still 137 kilos. You can't deny that, no matter which way you go about it.
The way I was sweating, I think it was like 280 kilos, but
Yeah, with boxes, they're not fun either. But without boxes, they're at least a little bit more manageable. But then, like, what I don't like about them, but it doesn't matter anyways, because I've never managed to touch the crowns, but the crowns are so close to the mounting eyelets, right? When you put the harness on, it's really close. It's really dodgy, but it works, but it's just scary close, because it's just being engineered, right? Oh, we'll give you 4 millimeters, and then it should have been an inch,
What I've done in the past is, the foam that you can buy for like lagging your cables. Cables, your pipes. There's sort of 6 insulated pipe. You can wrap that over the corners, and just tape it up, and that seems to work pretty well, protecting the sides and the aluminium crowns.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's not a bad idea, actually.
But other than and you can get the on the shoulders of the BL90, you can buy some. Amazon's got them. They're M8 sort of like power tool handles. All right, and where the top crown of the cover fits over the shoulders of the.
Oh, there are 3 screw-in handles. Yeah, the little blue
so you can screw those in, and they're like $2 each from Amazon, or $200 each from Bang & Olufsen. So
I got the $200 ones.
Yeah, but
well, the BeoTalk is real.
I was very good. My dealer gave me a skate as well.
Nice.
And, but you can't use it for anything. It just won't fit through any door.
It's for fine-tune adjustment when you have them in the place. That's basically it.
You just put a bit of cardboard under each foot and drag it where you want it.
That's exactly what I did with the theater on the stand here. I just went, and because it was behind me, and I'm like, you know what, I'll put it against this, because there's really not much out to look at anyways. And then it makes that, opens up the wall for a little bit of art. So yeah, I moved it.
Question from chat, Willie. Is your theater walnut now?
No, man. March 30th is apparently the delivery date set for the walnut grill to come in. So still a while. They have to go chop down the walnut tree because the order is real. But you just need a branch, man. Like, there is not much wood here.
Yeah, but then you need all these Danish ladies whittling.
I think that's CNC'd by now. That's all done by machines. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, to be honest. I'm very much looking forward to it. You'll know when it's walnut.
I mean, a question for Willie's expectation, because you had an Eclipse before, right?
Yes.
And how would you compare the 90s with the Eclipse versus the theater now with the 90s? Because I was initially shown 90s with was it a BV11 or 1555? I don't quite remember, but they sound roughly the same in how they handle 90s off to the side. And then once I was shown the theater, there were 90s next to it, and it's like, oh my god, the bass.
When I had the Eclipse, I never really had the Eclipse turned on as center channels. When I had the 90s, you just don't do it. I don't know,
Yeah.
Guide. How do you did
No,
you have the settings?
I did exactly the same thing.
There's no point.
I basically muted the soundbar on the Eclipse, which was a Mark One, and just used the phantom centers based on the BL90s.
And they outperformed the center channel by a long shot.
Oh, yeah, no, it wasn't even that. It was that you could hear the sound coming from the Eclipse, and it was jarring. It was.
It was two different image stages, more or less, because you would have the 90s perfect imaging, and then behind there would be Eclipse trying to be a center channel.
Yeah, it was terrible. So just mute them all off and just use the 90s with a phantom.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you fare now with the theatre?
I'm doing two things, actually. If you're listening to sort of Netflix, Amazon, Kaleidoscope, that sort of stuff, I'll go into the full, the full Atmos sort of or Dolby Plus experience. If I'm listening to TV, and we have something here in the UK called Freeview, which is crappy TV from the 80s and 90s, basically, I'll just program everything to flick onto the theatre and just use the center on the theatres. I've just done a little bit of tweaking in this last week to get rid of all the upfiring, side firing, and all that sort of nonsense on the center. So now it's just one big left, one big right, and a center on the center on the theatre itself for when I'm listening to TV. But when I'm playing all the sort of major sources, just let it do its stuff as programmed by RoomSense, and that seems to work pretty well.
Did you program for music separately, just to do two channels, or did you actually include the theater in there as well?
No, I've got it semi-programmed. I have listened, particularly with the Eclipse, to the the LG music media player that's in there, and it's the same with the. I think it's better with the new LG panels with the G2. It's better than the Eclipse panels, but the G2 media player, in my opinion, sounds not good. What I've got in one of the sort of cabinets behind me is I've got like a full Auralic G2 stack. So that's the streamer, the DAC, the clock, and the upsampler. And I feed that in through an XLR into the 90s directly. So so I think Willie's got Michael's got some photos there of the Auralic.
They're on the screen,
and that works fantastic. Mainly because you can program the 90s. You can tell it which channel to go through, so it knows. Once I kick the Auralic using the Auralic app, the signal will come in, the XLR channel will sort of open up. You control everything through the iPad with the Auralic. It's got a superior interface to the sort of Beo app for music, which tends to be more words and not very graphically sort of challenging. You can play your music, and I use actually an Essence remote just to control the volume through the IR port, and that works great. So you get the narrow widths, you get the BL90 doing all the work,
heavy lifting,
heavy lifting, rather than the theatre, which I'm BL90's room correction and theatre's room correction. If I had a choice, I wouldn't put anything through the theatre. I'd just put it directly to the 90s, and that works absolutely great. And it's the thing about the 90s, if anyone's got Beolab 5s, which I used to have previous to the 90s, the tonal balance is fantastic on the 5s. You've got a half decent bass, or pretty decent bass actually. You've got some very, very good mids, and then you've got the alts, the lenses with the sort of like trebles. You've got that sort of tonal clarity with the 90s, but then what the 90s bring extra once you've got them tuned in is the sort of 3D space.
Mm-hmm.
The imagery is absolutely breathtaking. With the 5s, you got that nice tonal balancing. Everywhere you walked around the room, you get the same sort of.
They sound even.
So tonal balance, yeah, which was great in many respects. It's a bit like Omni with the 90s, but with the 90s, once when I sit dead center in my favorite listening space, the 3D imagery is just absolutely phenomenal. And what you listen to, you listen to the tone, you listen to pretty clear music, but then the 3D imagery, or you don't know where the speakers are. You close your eyes, it's coming from
everywhere it's supposed to be.
Everywhere it's supposed
crazy.
To be. And I hear sounds on the 90s listening to music that seems to be coming sort of like it's coming out 180 degrees to my ear, or 90 degrees from my ears.
Mm-hmm.
And 180 degrees, 90 degrees from the 90s, and you think you're listening to like a 4.1 stereo, right?
The envelopment is insane when it comes
it's
to
insane. It's insane.
It's insane. Like they've done, and it's a long time ago project, and it's still, they harvest a lot of the tech now, even. The theater, honestly, the 18s have never sounded better than they are paired up with the theater, by far. I've never heard them this good, running the 90s and 18s in the back with the Avant at the time, because I didn't see the logic in keeping the Eclipse, because it wasn't compatible with the gateway at the time, and the software was all hanky and whatever else have you. So I'm like, no, man, I want something that still integrates to whatever it needs to be integrated. Plus, I used to own, I still do have it, but it doesn't work anymore for anything because IR is dead. The old keychain, the A9 keychain, so you have radio and audio and video buttons on it. So I had those.
Surely there's a way to make that work through hacking something together.
Oh yeah, but I still, no matter what, the point is that even when I had the Avant, I still turned off the front on the Avant completely and just let the 90s do their thing. And they're absolutely insane when you listen to them just before you fall asleep. Like, when you're drifting away, when you just have nothing but hearing left in your head, they are just fabulous. So
yeah, I tell you what I like, and it's a bit selfish, but I mean, behind me we got some granite walls which are like a meter thick, but opposite the TV where the 90s are, there's pretty standard sort of cavity wall which is into the next apartment, and that's an Airbnb apartment apparently. So you get people
some reviews.
you get people coming in, and they whack up the sound of whatever tin box they're listening to. Sounds like a nanny goat taking a piss in a tin can sort of sound.
Yeah.
And it's loud. It comes through, right? So you think, okay, well, I'll just put a bit of music on for 30 seconds and see who can tell who's the
gonna
boss.
Win. Yeah, who's gonna win.
And it goes quiet after that. So
put your headphones on, ANC max, go.
Fudge.
I remember.
I actually watched. Speaking of not volume, but I actually watched the Matrix 4. I guess the Revolution's Resurrection.
Yeah. So
Oh my god, what an like, but at least I watched it at the surround because I watched like volume 50, so like I don't have my neighbor tripping out. But I was very impressed by the Atmos effect of the theater on its own in this little, because I have it basically equally apart from the walls. So yeah, it sounds really good. It sounds really good in a small place, but it's not really that small here.
Well, your problem's the walls always, isn't it? And
Yes.
How well you get on with your neighbors.
Well, so far so good, but it's
Wait, did you ask her out yet?
No, I'm not doing that, bro. I'm not doing this like with a neighbor next door. That's insane.
Why?
Because if it doesn't work out, then she still fucking lives here, bro.
Yeah, and if it does, then you have an enormous apartment together.
No.
I mean, you can make one the bedroom and one the movie room.
No, I'm not planning to stay here longer than I have to, bro. I'm telling you that. Exit stage left as soon as I can. Yep.
So when you... Oh. Logitech for the win, everybody.
Well, don't be dissing mine. Oh, he's back. No, don't be asking nobody out, man. I'm actually having a date tonight, so there you go. But it's not the person in the building. It's somebody else. And it is a her. Just in case somebody goes with
as far as you know.
That's right. Somebody goes, what's his name in the chat? And I know it's a lady. So yeah. But that's about all I got to say to that.
I'm going to start a poll because...
What's the poll? You always set me up on some nonsense.
What you need to do is just post a little YouTube address under a door and say tune in on...
Put my phone
on a Sunday at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock or whenever it is. And then we'll ask her out to you for...
Oh God, yeah, no, let's not do that. It's like getting my shit printed on Skinny Play. Yes, I'm lame. I'm gonna vote yes on my own. I'm grabbing more soda. This is ridiculous.
It's deserved.
But
so when you watch movies now, how have you set up your theater with the 90s up front, and how big a change is it versus the Eclipse in your personal experience?
I think the way I view the Eclipse with the 90s, it's just a screen and a screen delivery system, right? So yeah. It's got that soundbar, which is a big sort of remote control receiver, for one of a better, and obviously the motorized stand. It was a nice enough TV. I think one of the things I'm sort of very enthusiastic about the theatre, right, is look at it this way. You buy an Eclipse, and prior to the Eclipse, I had a 65, the 65 Advance with the drop-down speaker and the stand and everything.
That was the Avant.
Yeah, the Avant, right? And the way I look at it is you were spending 10 to 12 grand every 5 years on a B&O Beer Vision.
Mm-hmm.
All right, pound sterling. So roughly, you're spending $2,000 a year on a Beer Vision, and you can trade them up, but they're not worth a great deal, right? I mean, the olden days when you had like an Avant 32 DVD, I think I had one of those, and I almost got the money back on it after 3 years of an Avant 32. But those days have gone, and large sort of plasma LCD type Beer Visions that you don't get anywhere near the money back on them with your dealer than you used to do. So the Avant, the Eclipse, you're basically burning £2,000 a year, the way I look at it.
Mhm.
You know, now you've got the theatre, you've got the soundbar, and LG might bring out the latest and greatest next year or the year after, and that, you know, at the very worst, if you say the theatre's trash after 5 years, well, you know, the cost of owning a Beer Vision is now down to like £400 or £500 a year.
Yes.
Yeah, but you'd be hard pressed to trash the Beosound theater, in my opinion. As far as you know,
well, you don't need to, right? I mean, it's like the Eclipse. So, you know, it never gave the sound that I liked, but it was a good soundbar. It was just
the irony of it all is that if you think about it, the Eclipse sound stage, whatever sound, costs more than the theater does now.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It does way more than what the Eclipse did. But you know, I guess we all pay for the transition from one manufacturer to the other, because before the Eclipse there was really nothing. It was all Samsung based panels. So you know, the history just writes itself a little bit in that.
But it's the panel that ages, right? And that's where
That's
your
right.
problems are. Yeah. So now that you don't have to, you know, refresh the soundbar anymore in the control unit, for want of a better description, and you've got all your legacy speakers in there.
Mhm.
All right. So I've got 90s. You know, these are 2016 90s. You know, they're 7-8 years old now. As you can see in the background here, I've got some eyeballs, as you would call them. You know,
Beolab 3s for anybody that
Beolab
doesn't
3s.
see right now.
The white ones,
yeah. I've got 3 pairs here, right?
Nice.
I've got the 2 surrounds and 4 at height. And I've gone for the white. I've gone for the white because they don't go sticky after about 4 or 5 years.
That's right.
And on eBay, I bought a pair probably a couple of weeks ago for £500.
Oh, that's a good deal.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is a sweet deal.
You know, and Mark II whites. So when you start bringing all this together, you've got a fairly compact and discrete 5.0.4 with the theatre.
Mm-hmm.
For you know, very little extra outlay. You know, and if you go and look at eBay, you know, you can get some black ones, and they're all, you know, between £500 and £1,000 a pair, which I think is pretty reasonable.
I think you could still order the shells, so you could swap them for the white ones or whichever ones.
Well, I've got a son, so he gets all my black Beolab 3s, and he can deal with the stickiness until he can afford his own, right? But I you know, I don't think it's too difficult to, you know, providing you're careful with the, you know, and here kids, be careful with the electronics inside bit. But you know, you can probably strip these things down, put them in some caustic soda for a couple of days, right, and the plastic will peel off, and just spray them with a bit of primer and some white paint, and I think you've got some pretty respectable finishing there.
Yes.
You know, it's I looked at the shape for here, just to get, you know, one shape with a, you know, an amplifier and a speaker at heights, and I thought it wasn't going to look good, so I just, you know, 17s, you know, I bought a pair last week, well, 2 weeks ago, for 17s for the office, and I moved a pair of Beolab 3s up here for the heights, as well as buying a new pair. But you just can't get 17s because I think Michael's buying them all right now.
Yes. I love me some 17s.
I you know, and the cost of the wall or the ceiling brackets is almost as much as a individual Beolab 3. So you know,
yeah.
when you sort of,
especially
like,
when you go the S2B route, yeah.
Yeah. Well, even if you can find anything on eBay,
yes.
it's still pretty expensive. I mean, if I'm being honest,
I'm sitting on a fortune then.
Yeah,
people are aware of it, right? That they are unreachable, so they sell them for a higher value even on eBay. That's it.
Yeah, my heights are just because of the way the room works and everything. It's actually sort of like a 6-inch stainless steel hold bar. I just screwed those into the parapet of where there are what I've got available just above the roof line, and then sort of use I think it's an M5 bolt or something like that, a flathead bolt, and the things screw up, and with the stainless steel, you think it's I won't say exactly B&O, but it's the next best thing.
Well, so if it's like more than 3 feet above your head, you can't really tell the difference anyway.
No. I mean, my heights here are sort of a good. Let's just. You can just see one there in the background, right at the top, above the triffids. Yeah, it's hidden there, and it's good enough. You don't see it as a budget job. Beolab 3s are not the best to hide at heights, but they're sort of, the cheapest, most cost-effective way of getting theatre surround, Atmos surround. So,
also, at least intrusive. They go well with quite a lot of styles, especially in white.
Yeah, they disappear quite a bit.
The 17s disappear reasonably well, but they're still pretty chunky compared to 3s.
I mean, the way I think B&O should go is I think they've got to re-release something like the M3. I think the M3 in white or a neutral beigey color with a couple of brackets, make them wiser. If they make those for the theatre, so it's a small compact speaker. It doesn't have to have the best sound quality; it just has to give the atmosphere. And you can put a number of those around the place discreetly. I think they would fly off the shelf.
I think so too.
Yeah, I mean the one thing that's lacking now they do Atmos is anything you can mount up top.
Well, I mean the other thing you've got to look at. I mean, I get away with it with having such a lovely wife. Is she'll tolerate my BL90s in the living room, right? But imagine, the wife acceptance factor where, you've got Beolab 50s or Beolab 90s or even 28s or 18s, but you've got 3 pairs of 18s and you've got 3 pairs of 18s on the ceiling. And then whatever subwoofers you want, it gets a bit too much for a living space, right? So you've got to have that sophistication.
Yeah, but also if she's a movie buff and you're a movie buff, then it's an easier way to pursue that passion because you both go for like, holy fuck, this sounds great.
No. Candles and a bunch of flowers will outstrip movie buff every day of the week.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that.
So,
like my missus likes to watch a lot of things, but if I overnight sneakily make the default speaker group just a 50s front, I'm not sure she would notice necessarily immediately.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could just put a Sony TV with a generic sound bar here, and she wouldn't notice the difference. But
oh, I'm sure she would notice the difference. You got to notice the difference from the 90s, no matter what. But yeah, I know there's much less females than males that buy B&O.
You've got to have that spec. You just can't have a man pad unless you've got a spare room and have your man cave. You've got to sort of live with it a bit.
But it's harder to put in black, rectangular boxes in the house than B&O speakers because it's just they look sculptural, they look beautiful. Some of the stuff that has intrigue to it that you don't even know if it's a speaker or not, right?
That's right.
If you look at Beolab 28s without seeing the base behind the couch or something, you think it's a lamp.
But as I say, I think something like an M3, which can mount at height, and
M3 would be a great idea.
It would be a great idea, and it's so small. I think that would
be a great idea.
It'd be so small. I mean, you've still got to hide the power cable, but it would have enough power for the ambience and the Atmos.
Oh yeah,
And,
that thing kicks up pretty good. So, and for all you need, because the bass would be more or less taken care of by the theater in a smaller room,
that's right.
but you would need like maybe a package of 4 or 6 or 8. Just max out the goddamn WiSA channels, right? Like,
Yeah,
poof, here you go.
I mean, I've looked at like getting a second-hand Beolab 14. The problem I was never confident about was what you do with the subwoofer, right? It's that's a pain, right? Because I don't.
I think there was a bug with the Beolab 14s from what I was reading on the ROS. I think it's fixed. I'm still waiting for the newest software version. I don't know why I haven't gotten it. I'm still at
Nor have I,
2.3.4.
by the way.
Like, what
Really
the hell,
annoying.
man?
Like, why not me?
Yeah, why not me? What did I do? Right? So we don't get this. And I even asked like through like ROS, like push the service. It wouldn't do it. I'm like, you bastard. So I don't have that yet, but I'm really wondering what's going on or what will be fixed. One thing that I guess like to gripe about a little bit is the my buttons. They only work one time.
What do you mean?
So if you press the my button on my TV, it turns the TV towards the kitchen, sets the speaker position to kitchen, and sets the volume to 50 or no 45, and it goes to YouTube. If I go to stand or I just change from kitchen to, let's say, sofa, and the stand moves while the TV's turned on now, right?
Yeah.
And I press the my button one again to go to YouTube, it just switches the source, but it doesn't move the TV back to the proper favorite selected my button position, which was listening preset for kitchen. It
Maybe
doesn't
it
do that.
doesn't know that it moved in the meantime, then probably.
It definitely has to be aware of the fact that it moves, because if you go to the app and you look at the app, it shows you exactly where the thing is turned, so it knows where it's at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes no sense why it doesn't do that. It should be like, if it's a my button, it doesn't matter how many times I press it, it should still go back to that same my button preset no matter what state the TV is in. It should always go, okay, shit, if I'm centered, I should move this way with the stand, set my volume to this, and go to this source. That's what I'm supposed to do while the button is pressed. So
yeah, that's the one thing, with the theatre that I've sort of not missed one little bit. The Advance, even the original Advance and the Eclipse, I all bought them with the motorized stand.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it in many respects that it was, I won't say a waste of money. It was just something that I never ever used. I think what I found great with the Eclipse stand was I had this little setting called service, and what it would do is it would rock the stand out forward, so you're basically about 12 inches, 30 centimeters away from the wall, which would give you access to the back panels and all the cabling, and that was basically the
only purpose,
the main use. Yeah. So this time I wasn't overly keen on buying a stand for the theatre. There's a number of reasons, as you can see from my picture. I've got it right up against the wall. I've got a limited width living room, so I don't want that thing coming out any more than it has to. And I've got some grief for this, but the stand it's on now, that little plinth, that's made out of 5 IKEA lac shelves, all screwed together, and a bit of car body filler to sort of
hold the weight,
cover up all the gaps, sand it down, paint it white, and it hides also a whole heap of cables. Because trying to work everything around is.
I don't get the IKEA grief. Like, they make halfway decent things that serve a purpose. I mean, it's not particularly pretty always, but...
You know what I think the problem is? I think the problem is that people don't wood glue the dowels together, so the shit falls apart because it's not properly assembled. You should wood glue all that together, and then it's good for good.
IKEA's at a price point, right? And it serves a purpose. I mean, I mean, we've got a few like holster furnitures in the house, but you the problem with that is you always end up drilling more holes in for cables or for ventilation and all that sort of stuff. And with the theatre, I couldn't get anything thin enough. You know, I wanted something that would just about fit that table stand on there and be nothing more. So that plinth is what, 25, 26 centimeters wide. So it gives me the maximum floor space on the lounge, on the living space, without the TV taking up sort of excess space, as it were.
I mean, would that box be any better if it was $2,000 and it didn't say IKEA?
Well, if you want to buy this, Michael, for $2,000, I'll post it. Postage is free. Okay. I think the whole thing cost me $50 or $60.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I did it possibly even cheaper. I wall mounted it all.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that luxury. I'm sure my landlord would object.
Yeah, that's why I went with the floor stand. I like it rotating because I do use the rotation quite a bit. I use it every day.
When I had a rotating TV with a rotating floor stand in previous homes, I used it quite a lot. But then my last two apartments, they were in a way where like it wouldn't make any difference to really have it. So it's sort of like, this doesn't matter at this point.
I tell you what would look really cool. I mean, my theatre's a 65, right? But if you had a 75 theatre, and I've got another story there. But if you had a 75 theatre on the, I think the 77 theatre on a 755 would look as cool as. You know,
I think so. Yeah.
So you know the 755, how it was very low slung.
Yeah.
The 7.6 was right down almost next to the disc of the floor stand.
Yeah. The table stand or low floor stand.
It probably didn't have more than 100 mil of clearance there. I think if you put a 77 theatre on a 755 floor stand, and I think it's big and heavy enough to do that, I think that would look about as cool as you could possibly get for a theatre.
Yes.
Yeah, the problem is now just finding the floor stand.
Yeah.
I wonder if you actually I wonder if you would redo the connectors from the 5-pin DIN to a 4-pin Molex connector that is in the theater now. If it would work, if you could actually turn the bloody thing and tilt it up and down.
I don't think so, because the current one is PWM, and was it back then? I don't think so.
I don't know, but that's something that I know that they're using for this floor stand. It's the same set of bearings that are from the BeoVision 740, as far as the theater stand goes. Because I snuffed around freaking exploded view and shit. It was all up and down. I was wanted to see like what parts would actually reused or what they design new.
Yeah, I mean, again, that was one of the things I looked at was, and there was one on eBay at the time. Even though I sort of traded my Eclipse 65 in with my dealer for the theatre, and he did me a great deal. He, can't appreciate it enough. There were on eBay there was a Eclipse stand, and that Y bracket. You know, if someone was handy with a bit of aluminium, I think you could mount the theatre base onto that pretty easily.
Doesn't STB have that part for like 300 pounds already?
I don't know.
I think so.
It's only the Mark I Eclipse that had that connection. That way.
Yeah, but they've done I know they've done the adapter for the BeoVision Avant 55 floor stand to put a theater on it with the TV. And I wonder if,
they did.
And I wonder if that one would work because that's the same controllers, same connector.
I was wrong, by the way. The old ones were PWM, and the current stands are CAN bus.
That's right, but I'm saying that the Avant is a CAN bus as well. It's the same connector.
So the Avant one would potentially work.
That'd be sick.
Well, go
You
hack
get
some
it.
stuff. To get,
You get a tilt. I don't have the freaking floor stand, bro.
Surely somebody trades one in at some point.
I got an Eclipse floor stand in Vancouver that I let my technician borrow, and I haven't seen it since. But I don't need it. But it's still a few grand that's sitting there. Maybe I will grab it back and fiddle fuck something out of it, because I think you could.
Probably.
But I think this is the nicest floor stand that they've come up with as far as the little arc and stuff goes. I like it. But it would be cool to see it on a platform like the BeoVision 7 is. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. It's just hard to find those floor stands because I bet you a lot of TVs that died, they were just tossed, including the floor stand, because
I fucking remember me stupid. I tossed a few BeoVision 740 floor stands. Tall one, and a short one.
Back then, they weren't compatible with anything else anyway.
No, and that's the feels bad. Like that's just that is the never-ending lesson of you never throw B&O away, because there's at some point somebody comes up with something that is compatible with the new shit.
Yeah, if only
And
I
then
had the
it's
foresight
amazing
5 years
feels
ago,
bad.
what would happen this week?
Right?
Yeah, sorry, no.
Should go for psychic readings and ask.
I mean,
for that.
speaking of good foresight, though, I think Sandeep and I called it exactly, but because there's new price rises coming up.
Yeah.
For here, it's March. So if you're in the market for anything, you have some time. I'm not entirely happy about it. The price increases aren't too excessive.
But they are going up.
Yeah, but at this point, we've increased a lot of things 30% in the last 2 years. Like, that's more than inflation. But the theater is going up here anyway. It's done weirdly again. The theater is going up €500, but the cover prices stay the same. So it's like, huh?
Okay.
But anyway, if you're wondering, like, should I get a theater? And if so, do I get one with oak or with a fabric? The price difference is almost the oak.
It's like Sandeep says, the wise man already bought his theater already.
Yeah, well, fortunately, this
I got
time we
mine.
know ahead of time instead
Yeah.
of like last minute overnight. But apparently the 90s are also going up again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I think it was 2 or 3%. But on the current price, that's still $3,000 or so more.
Fucking hell.
So we're inching closer to €110,000 for the basic black ones.
I'm so glad that I bought them when I bought them, because you can still make at least the initial investment return for how much they go out.
I hate to be vulgar discussing coin, but I think when did the 90s come out? Was it March 2000? I think it was January.
November 17th, 2015 is when they were introduced.
Right. So they were getting available in the stores around about the end of February to March 2016.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember when I placed the order for mine, but I as I say, I got them pretty quickly right at the beginning. And I think with my dealer in the UK, as I say, it was the fourth one coming out. I hate to be vulgar about this, but I think they were £54,000.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
And they were still made in Denmark, bro, like the original shit. Because then
where are they making them now? China?
No, they're
Croatia.
assembled in Czech Republic. Czech Republic is everything else. Yeah.
Thank goodness. Yeah. But so we're talking 7 years now where they've almost doubled in price.
Mm-hmm.
The basic black one start at £85,750.
Yeah, a lot of money all of a sudden. Eh?
Yeah, it's extreme money all of a sudden. mean, they were never
But when I
cheap,
look at it,
but-
when I look at it from like the place that I work at now, where there's these thermistors and high-end monoblocks and all this nonsense, right? Like you can go easily to $300,000 Canadian, like just to have a 2-channel system. And in my opinion, yes, maybe the clarity is good to a certain point, but sonically and acoustically and power-wise, they don't even come ankles deep to the Beolab 90. And how far you can push them, and the clarity retains exactly the same. Like it's just a flat.
I think there's not only Beolab 90s, but quite a lot of the range. Like people look at the name Bang & Olufsen and they roll their eyes, and everything they read as a teenager on the top shelves of the hi-fi magazine rackets, the local newspaper stand, and they keep it all in their heads. I mean, I deal a lot with the Auralic forums, right?
yeah.
And as I say, I mean, as a streamer, and it's not just a streamer and a DAG, but there's a significant amount of investment there, which I think is superior to anything that Bang & Olufsen have, but it's not that much superior, right? It's if you look at the core, or what they got the core, all right, it's $1,000 streamer.
Which is still too much for what it is.
It's way too much for what it is.
I agree.
But if you look at sort of like reasonable hi-fi audiophile streamers, on the $2,000 to $3,000 level, there's a lot of stuff out there, but it can so easily go into the
Tens of thousands,
20,000s, right? And you listen to people talking about how a cable changes the tone of the music. I even listen to idiots who talk about fuses, audiophile fuses that fit inside the plug. These are the little
What?
25, and these are $400 a pop. And I'm saying, come on, tell me the physics of how that little thing with a 0.2 millimeter square filament going through it, made out of some sort of tin or silver or whatever, changes the clarity of what you're listening to. You may hear it. I understand. You've got sonic ears, you've got golden ears, but tell me the maths and tell me the physics, and you hear crickets.
They don't exist.
Right? And I've spent a huge amount of money on top of the Beolab 9s with my third-party systems. There's regenerators, there's CD rippers, there's switches, and half of it is, I won't say crap, but it's definitely a case that I have too much time on my hands and too much money, and not enough sense in all
you were
cases.
a tinkerer. Like my system, I have these cables that interconnect X, Y, and Z.
But like I said, I've said a number of times, I think those people are more or less, they like to listen to their system than the music that it's playing.
No, I don't think it's that, Willie. I think people like to spend money, all right, and they want to hear the result of their investment.
But that's what I'm saying.
And it's psychological. And I think one of the biggest problems I have with the Beolab 90s, and I've got a pretty decent system with the Auralics that 99% of the population won't have, right? But the biggest problem I have with my system is that the music that I listen to, and in particular the recordings that I listen to, and this is all sort of CDs that have been ripped or through Cobus, the recordings are rubbish. All right, and you can hear it on the Beolab 90s all day long.
Yes, you can.
You can pretty much hear it in the 50s too.
I tell you what's one of the best albums I've ever had is the the Beo Listening Active 3. You know, the one with the Beolab 5 on the cover? Now,
the black.
Now, if you listen to that Active Listening 3, you know, and you put that on your Beolab 90s, I think that's some of the best music you'll ever hear. And it's all 4416 music, but it's cut and recorded really, really clearly. I mean, that stuff is exceptional.
Yeah, those B&O test sample CDs were actually excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not be the music to your liking, but it's fantastic test music to see if your speakers are doing what they're supposed to do.
That's right.
And eventually, like me, you play it so often that you start to like the music anyway.
Yeah, but then they become your test track, right, for everything else, because you have a reference of it.
Yeah.
So everybody's got theirs.
But going back to some of the pricing, you know, you look at the, you know, Beolab 90s. All right, so what are you going to do? What's going to replace that? All right,
I don't think, quite honestly, they'll do anything really.
No, but what are you going to do as an alternative? You know, are you going to get Bowers and Wilkins 800s? You know,
I wouldn't. No.
They're 20 odd grand now. Then you've got the amplification, and they're not even going to be even close.
But the problem with those speakers is they wouldn't even work in your room because they have to be 1.5 meters away from the back wall. They'd be basically next to your coffee table.
Well, we might as well get a pair of headphones, right?
Yeah. I mean, that I then understand to spend some money on because you can get into the 20,000 odd for headphones as well. But like any of the passive speakers, I wouldn't really know what to do. Like regardless of the design or looks of things, like what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's not just what the Beolab 90s are, you know, in terms of their entire package of amplification, sound delivery, the sort of noise cancellation and stuff like that. You know, anything else is, you know, is just going to compound all those effects, no matter how much it costs and how much the so-called quality is above that. So, you know, it's a very, very, you know, I've had a pretty good career, which has been well paid. But would I buy Beolab 90s now? You know, it's a hard one, eh?
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I don't think I would ever buy 90s new at this point unless I won a lottery and stopped caring.
Yeah, you could buy mine if you want. It costs you more than a new pair, but hey.
I mean,
no,
I'd have to get them down the stairs. I don't want to do
that. but I think it's a tricky thing for B&O, right? It's I think I've only had a brief listening of Beolab 28s, and I think they were nice. You know, there's a good sound to them, but they're not.
They're not what you expect for the money.
It's not that. It's
they sound different. They have a modern listening sort of. I don't know how to. They're a bit Beats by B&O-ish to me. I like them a lot, but part of the reason I got rid of mine is because with 50s, it was noticeable that they didn't sound the same.
No, I think all the different loudspeakers will have different voicings. I think that's to be expected.
But the 17s are so much closer to the 50s than the 28s were.
But yeah, B&O speakers were always voice matched. It didn't matter. These are the first ones that did really kind of just it's drifting away from it.
I mean, the 28s are, to me anyway, sound much more like an enormous balance. In a good way. Like this is not bad. It's just a new sound that isn't exactly the same as the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Like even 18s sound much more like 50s than 28s ever did. And it's not objectionable. It's just it has a bass hump that nothing else in the older B&O line, in my experience, ever had.
I think the thing is, I mean, all these speakers have a different sound, right? And there's no right or wrong sound. It's just the sound that you prefer.
Yes.
I think, you know, my sort of recollection of when I bought the Beolab 5s is, you know, they had, in terms of sound, such a presence. And it wasn't like a heavy bass. It was actually, it was probably quite a decent mids with a well-presented treble. You know, forget about the spatial soundstage of those, but you know, they had that gravity about them.
Yes.
And
they were very silky.
Well, not just silky, but they were really grounded, really sure-footed speakers. You know, they sort of delivered a presence. The 90s definitely do that. I mean, obviously, I mean they're huge, and you know, they got massive internal power.
Reserves, yeah.
Absolutely, but you wouldn't expect anything different, right? But once you've got acclimatized to that Beolab 5, Beolab 90, I can't say I've listened to Beolab 50s. I found the Beolab 28s a little bit not the same presence. And you know, again, I know you're a fanboy of Beolab 17s.
Well, I became one over the years. I sort of was about them for the longest time.
And I put those down in my office, and as I say, I moved the Beolab 3s up there to sort of augment the Atmos. And I wouldn't say they're unpleasant. Far from it. But it's a different sound, and you know, you get so used to like the 3s and how they present. You know, how would I put 17s against 3s? I guess technically the 17s are a lot better, but my perception right now of the 3s is versus 17s is, you know, yeah, they're okay. You know, it's.
Well, the 17s, I get what you mean. The 17s have a bigger punch, especially for bass. But if you use them in the surround/rear sort of situations, it doesn't really matter. And the one thing that is more noticeable than anything else, I would say, is you lose the sort of spread that the lens gives on the 3s versus the 17s are a lot more directional.
Mm-hmm.
I think my answer to that is that, you know, and with the 90s, it's a bit difficult to sort of pinpoint it because the 90s just dominate, right? You know, you got the bass there, you've got everything else, the spatialness, and you know, in a theatre sort of setup. I mean, I think that's a great thing about the theatre is it doesn't matter if we got 3s. Beolab 4s maybe, 17s, you know, you plug all these into the surrounds, and I think they'll do a great job. I think they'll do enough if you're watching a movie, put it that way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, currently, I think I've said this a few times now, but if I didn't have the 50s now, for the current new price of a set of 50s, you can buy a theater, an 83-inch panel, and 4 28s. Or you can have a set of 50s without a streamer or anything. It's like, would I buy 50s now at the current price when this is the alternative and I watch movies all the time?
Yeah, I think you would go for the theater and 428s.
Yeah. I mean,
probably
I think
get another
last
pair,
time
so
I
you have
calculated it,
628s.
I think there was even a room left for an extra set of height 17s. Like, this is the price differential now because 50s in euros are like 43 grand or something.
Mm.
It's like, whoa, these were just under 26 when they launched.
Did I see they were doing a Harrods version as well for, was it 47 or 49?
Yeah, Harrods gold and green for 50s and 90s.
I've seen those pictures. That's I don't. Well, somebody will buy it, or they just put it in some freaking golf clubhouse or something. You know.
I tell you what, if you buy those, you don't deserve them. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. No, it's just a terrible combo of color.
Well,
But I
some
guess
people
that's
don't
just
deserve their Ferraris.
Yeah,
but that's just a bespoke thing, right?
you can see some gentleman of London rocking up in his green and gold Lamborghini, going upstairs to his green and gold Harrods Beolab 90s.
Well, you whilst wearing your 4-piece London suit, as in trainers,
No,
sweatpants, hoodie, and a cap on.
Yes,
That's your
yeah.
London 4-piece London suit.
$500 shirt.
God.
Probably instead of normal sneakers, you wear Yeezys or something like that. Good God, that's a scam.
Yeah, and people pay for it.
Yeah. Oh well, whatever.
But yeah, I think it's just a never-ending, I guess, positive argument saying that the only company that appreciates in value for speakers is B&O. I don't think anything else really is going up in price as far as buying it today versus 6 years from now.
No, but it does make it hard to stomach a bit. I wonder. We'll see in the next financial meeting at B&O because they put them out. But I have a feeling it essentially affects them very little in sales.
What?
All the price hikes and this sort of stuff. But,
Well, the custom built now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, the bespoke department is pretty much savage highway robbery.
No, but I think I would imagine. I don't know because I'm not in on the inside, but I'd imagine they probably got maybe 12 Beolab 90 carcasses and a box full of spares of speakers, speaker cones, ice modules, power modules, etc. And someone puts in an order, and if you're 6 customers this year, they'll go and make you Beolab 90s. And if you're the 7th customer, they'll say, "Yeah, we'll take your money, but come back in 8 months' time." I can see that very much as their business model.
Yeah, but I have a feeling they don't really see it in their sales figures in total output. But it's sort of like I worry for me. Potentially for Willie, like eventually, if this gonna keeps happening every 6 months, there's a point where it's literally okay. I'm just a second-hand market customer now.
Or you buy shit when it first comes out because that's the only place that you can really afford it because then it's gonna go up 15-20% in the next year.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing some calculations because on last week's podcast somebody commented and it got me calculated like. And he was saying like a lot of people buy headphones and stuff, and they do, but there's only 3 of them left now. We only have the EX, the H95, and the HX. But if they want to reach that target of the average customer paying more than 2x than what they do now, and the ratio is about 1 to 5 headphone customers to everything else, if the headphone customers, let's say you have 1,000 headphones customers and 200 regular Beolab theater customers type of deal. If you get the 1,000 headphone customers to pay double the money for the headphones, that only gets you 23% average sale price out the door. So everything needs to go up. And
For me, what I don't like about this is that you can buy the stuff on Amazon or whatever, and then they basically send you to the monobrand stores to do the warranty swaps, which is basically just a financial burden to the monobrand stores because then they have to deal with it to credit. So you never see that money ever again. It's just now in credit towards your new order and so on and so forth. It's
monobrand shops like yours actually do that volume of headphones at all.
No, not at all.
I think the other problem is bottlenecking. All right, what I would call bottlenecking. All right, so I bought a pair of I think when they first came out, H8s.
Yeah.
All right, used them for a while, used them for traveling. Okay, send it to my son. I actually got into quite an extended conversation with B&O themselves on their market research on Beolab 90s. So, you know, I spent quite a few hours with them in teleconferences and giving him my unopinionated opinion of Beolab 90s and what I liked and disliked and so on and so forth. They were very, very kind, and they sent me a pair of Gen 3 H9s for my time and effort. Used those for a while, which I thought were great earphones. You give them to my wife. I've recently just bought these, what I'm wearing now, which is the Portal, which I think are okay, but they're not as good as the H9s. All right, so my entire family now have got B&O headphones. What's their future sales going to look like from my family? Not great for the next few years. You know, we've already talked about I'm scouring eBay for Beolab 3s. Michael's looking at scouring the eBay for Beolab 17s. All right, so we're hoovering up the second-hand market, and there's no real fresh sales going into B&O. I mean, all right, they've got a theatre and a G2 panel, but when's the next time they're going to sell me a new theatre? You know, if they're saying this is cradle to cradle technology,
to grave, you know, or cradle to cradle,
you know, and they're going to update it. So, you know, I don't understand their philosophy. I mean, you know, we all know that Apple sort of make everything that the battery is programmed to die after 2 years and tail off to 4 years, and then you've got to buy a new one. What's you know, you talk about these high value individuals, you know, and yeah, am I one? No, I'm just a working class guy who can earn a lot of money if he chooses to, but I'm not going to sort of throw stupid money at stupid things. You know, there may be some rock stars and movie stars out there who will think of nothing as, you know, having a theatre set up with 20 Beolab 90s, but how many people are you going to get? So I don't understand that business model where things like the earphones are going to last a long time. You know, they're not going to be used for a year and then chuck them away. They're going to be used for years and years and years. All right, and they're robust. Beolab 3s are robust. Beolab 17s are robust. You know, there'll be a few failure rates, but you know, they make such good equipment. Where their sales going to come from?
To me, having lived in and around B&O quite literally my entire life, and the people I know that also have it, some of them are the very high net worth individuals, some of them aren't, and some of them really aren't. But they're all, one thing they have in common is they are loyal to this brand. Like, well, and it's like these ultra rich. Are they that loyal? If you can just go, fuck it, it's not working, get rid of it, or buy something else.
It doesn't take much to be in the top 5% of the population earning wise, right?
Yeah.
And whether you're talking like, you know, hardworking entrepreneurs, working class, middle class, or even the rock stars and movie stars and all this sort of stuff, right? What proportion buy B&O?
Whichever designer they have is probably that tells them to buy that because that looks good. That's about it, I think.
So everyone in Hollywood goes and buys B&O. I doubt it, but if they did, what would that bottom line look like? I mean, to me, B&O has always been the upper working class, middle class, quality, austere, erudite choice, right? It can look flashy, but at the end of the day, you know, you're buying stuff, you know, whether it's a pair of headphones, earphones, a TV, loudspeakers, that if properly looked after, perhaps even serviced, there's a good 20 years on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I struggle, like, if I just think of perhaps not the Advant 32 DVD, but you go to look at the flat screens, such as the new Advant 65 or 75, even the Eclipse. Are they obsolete right now? I don't think so. I think they're perfectly valid, and you can augment them with sources. Whether it's a decent DVD player or something else, and you've got something there that's good.
That is totally down to dealers, though, which are franchisees. The whole, I mean, especially when you look in America, the Second Life is just not there. It's eBay at best.
Non-existing, really. They don't. I don't know. Like, they don't like to deal with it because it's hard to fix stuff, right? Like.
Yeah, but even if you
and
sold
it's costly to repair
your known client 2 years, an Eclipse 2 years ago, there's no reason to just chuck it in the bin. Like, you can make somebody else happy with it and make some money on it. I mean, yes, it'll take some effort, but surely like somebody's kid that grew up with it. Maybe they have a few, like $1 or $2 grand to spend on the TV. I mean, you're already out of the cost anyway, but it lives on. This builds that loyalty as well for a lot of people, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I find it a bit weird. I mean, speaking of the Hollywood people, as long as they don't talk to Alicia Keys, it'll be all right, I guess.
I'm sure she's happy with what she's got, because I'm certain of it. It's very seldomly used.
Yeah, sure, but they messed up the install.
She can come and listen to my Beolab 90s any day.
She has 90s, but they messed up the install.
Yeah, she hasn't listened to mine, though.
But apparently they fixed it.
Yeah.
From what I was told.
What was it? There was a seating position here. 190 was pointed at it, and the other one was pointed that way at the other 90. Amongst the other issues that were there in the install that you could see in the Instagram pictures.
Yeah, it was not bad. It was a magazine picture, so I'm like, whoever was in charge of that, they should not have let that happen at the time when this was being done at all. Like, that should have been finished properly.
I think my view of that is they bought these sculptural pieces of equipment.
Yes,
I'd be surprised they're even plugged in. I mean.
Well, they were, because the cable management was atrocious, so they were at least plugged in. But I think that the photo shoot happened between them being finalized and the guys having a lunch break in the same time. So
I think
it was not good.
I think if you've got a Showy home, I think there's only 2 loudspeakers you can possibly ever use. One is the Beolab 90s, and the other is the B&W Nautilus. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And take your pick out of those 2. I'm not going to compare sonic capabilities, but if you've got a Showy home like Alicia Keys and all those sort of people, there's only 2 choices.
Mm-hmm. But Nautilus are fucking huge.
I mean, to my mind, 50s still work. I mean, they're smaller, but they're...
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there's that much marble and stuff in those giant hallways anyway, I mean... There's not that much sound absorption going on that it wouldn't be enough power.
Yeah, I wonder how they even manipulate that acoustically, if even. It's just...
well, it's like the old saying.
Echo fest.
It's like the old saying. It's like a cat trying to hide a shit on a marble floor, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, I don't know. It's just weird how that...
I think personally, I think it's very risky to predominantly aim at the very high net worth people, the VH and WIs as they acronym them. I mean, I'm sure there's people that are good people there and that love B&O and are fans, but when there's no brand loyalty, if you don't come back after a big purchase, then what have you gained? Not much.
Well, I think it's like anything else. I mean, the high worths, as soon as there's trouble on the horizon, they'll run to the hills.
Yeah.
I mean, this is exactly why B&O, and let's get this straight. I've been keeping B&O sort of solvent for the last 30 years. But, you look at was it TUI between Mantotti or something. The
Mantoni, yeah.
Antoni,
Yeah.
and he got a lot of criticism. He got a lot of criticism for all these Beoplay products and the headphones and the mono speakers. But if you look what he was doing, he was trying to sort of get the sales up and the turnover going, because
he saved the brand, in my opinion, quite a bit.
Absolutely. But he'd sold the brand soul a little bit for cheaper products to get the turnover and the sales. And now it looks like B&O are going back to sort of this high-end, aloof sort of position. You remember when they had the Beo Vision 103?
Yes.
Which was like £97,000 10 years ago. And
adjusted for inflation, that's enormous money now.
but who bought one of them?
There's few people apparently in Montreal that have them, believe it or not. Not the 103, but the 83, which is basically the same nonsense.
There's a few 103s around here too.
With the motorized stand.
So what's the depreciation of one of those right now? Having a 720 screen with which is 100.
That dies in your. I think it was a 1080p panel, but that dies in your fucking house, man. Because there's no way you're gonna hire a crane to get it out.
I saw one for sale not that long ago, and if I remember right, it was still 20 grand plus.
Right, but it's
just sheer size that makes it impossible.
But I mean, there's no doubt about it. No matter how much people are feeling the pinch right now, there's still money out there. But is it enough to keep B&O sort of moving forward? I'm struggling on that. I really am. I mean, at the end of the day, the guys who are on a reasonable wage, plus a few sort of high-end students or people who want to get these one-off Beoplays and headphones and stuff. That to me is the price point of it's an exceptional price point, but it's people wanting to buy quality that will keep that will keep this company afloat.
And you always end up buying more anyway. And it doesn't matter if even if you don't really have a need for it, like after 5 years or 2 or 3, you get that itch of like, well, it's been flawless so far. Might as well buy some more.
Well, I mean, look at it a different way. I'm hoovering up every Beolab 3 whites I can find. You're hoovering up every Beolab 17s. Sooner or later, the market's going to go dry. People are going to go to the dealers and buy new balances or whatever, right?
And then we'll be rich because we'll sprinkle them back in.
I just hope they come up with something that, like you're saying, Guy, something that, like ties in with the theater, like the little Wysa M3 type of shape speakers would be something crazy that, just run them off the electricity.
There's enough showpieces out there, the Beolab 18s, the 28s, the 90s, even something like a Beolab 9, all right, it's pretty rich meat for a living room. And with the theatre, they need something that is uber discreet, that you can hide and never see. Yeah, you can get the Beolab. Is it the Celestine and the Paladin and stuff like that?
Yeah,
palatial. Right. Most of us can't hide those into apartments.
You need back boxes and it's a whole process to get that installed.
I've got a big bloody granite wall here, and I've got a roof which is 7 meters high. So I mean, that's no good for me at all.
Yeah,
I have a jackhammer for you.
All right, but most people, if they're buying this stuff, do they really want to start tearing down their ceilings and the walls to put this stuff in? So to me, just getting something that you can quickly screw up on the ceiling or on the corner of the wall, which is very, very small, relatively powerful, doesn't have to have great acoustics, just has to have that ambience. I tell you what, if they did something like that, they'd be going out of the Struer warehouse faster than you can say Jack.
I think so too. I think with the theater, if they made a promo package of some sort, that you buy that and
But it's still,
expand on your
at what
Dolby
price
Atmos.
point are we thinking though? Because that still drives a lot of this. Because I mean,
I think you could go and ask about $3,500 for the system.
I think that's too high. I think if you got a pair of M3s,
Yeah.
which
So
what were they?
$400 each.
What was an M3? $400. All right. So if
Yeah.
you get something equivalent to M3s, $400, $800, $1,200 to $1,500 for a pair, right? You're making more margin than you had before. You're now allowing people to equip up their theaters, and you're talking 2, 4, 6, 8 pairs. So if you play your cards right, you're looking at sort of $7.5 grand's worth of loudspeaker out of the door because people want to have the full Atmos,
yeah.
right? On something that's already, M3 technology. M3 technology, either Wi-Fi or with, which is just a firmware change right on the theater, or with Wi-Fi.
I think they would just have to do the voice antenna instead of the Wi-Fi and take everything else out, and that's it. Like you wouldn't even need the buttons.
Right. So you've
Pairing
got
buttons. That's it.
you've got greater margin. You're giving people more flexibility to buy more speakers because they're less getting in people's living space. I mean, we'd all like to have, a 7.6 system with Beolab 90s, but none of us have got the floor space or the money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had these M3s all over the place, which were hidden on wall brackets, all right, you're going to run a power cable, which is a problem, but sorry, but that's the way it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'd be selling it tons of these things.
Well, what if they make the emerges compatible with the surround? As a Wi-Fi speaker.
I don't disagree, but it only hangs one way.
Whereas the M3 is a bit like the Beolab 17, right?
Yeah, you can put it whichever way, more or
whichever way. So you can run it along the corner of a ceiling and wall. You put your cables across your ceiling. They seriously got to start thinking about this. Why produce the theatre and then nothing to go with it?
Yeah, the only things that go with it are more expensive than it.
Yeah, their idea of going with it, a golden triangle, is the 28s in the back, right? Which are basically double the cost of the bloody theater, if you think about it, when you get the oaks and whatnots and whatevers.
But it's like an inch, all right? Yeah, we can go and get the 28s in the theater. We've got that triangle, right? But that's 5.1.
That's right. It's still wrong, in my opinion.
Whereas everyone wants to look at 7.2.4 or 9. What I don't know what the theatre. I think the theatre can do 11.2.4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or something of that order, right? That's what they've got to start marketing. So if they produce the product that they can start bulking out the theatre for, people will buy it.
It's even fine if it's in the BeoPlay range or something like that. I mean, I'm still looking at this slide from their presentation. And they say focus on Gen Z, wherever you're from, young millennial, very high net worth individuals, trendsetters in segments, cultural luxury agendas purchases. Becoming their choice, we will also increase our share amongst well-established and careerists. I'm thinking to myself, okay, but how do you get your foot in the door if none of these people can afford it until they're very wealthy? That's a bit late to get to know the brand, surely.
In my opinion as well, yeah.
All right,
but the headphones are okay, but like that they may lead to speakers, but they probably first lead to second-hand speakers and nothing new you can sell because it's all way too much.
But that's the beauty, I think, in part of the theatre, but it's just one product, right? So you buy a theatre, you've already got a screen, all right? Maybe you can integrate it and get full B&O compatibility if it's LG or an LG of a certain model. Great. Then you can go and scour eBay for the Beolab 3s or the 4s or
4,000.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you can buy all sorts of stuff on eBay. And that's great. And you're up and running. And you know what? You've got a world-class theatre system there. All right. Now you sort of get up in the world, right? But you don't want to change everything all at once. All right. Your theatre will last and last and last, and you then upgrade your speakers and you start moving, just like me. I've got a pair of Beolab 90s. All right. It's not finance that's stopping me having the ultimate experience. It's common sense. All right. So you get the 90s, you buy the 3s on eBay, and the whole system starts to move, and it becomes a conveyor belt. Mm-hmm. Just like the BeoPlay was a conveyor belt, or allegedly conveyor belt for getting B&O out of the doodah. All right. You get the people who want to buy earphones, who then go and buy the small speakers, who then go and buy the bigger speakers, who then go into Beer Visions and so on and so forth.
But they actually had smaller speakers back then.
But that's the pathway they've got to start nurturing, because these high worths, they're going to buy stuff for once. I mean, all right,
that's it.
Pair of Beolab 90s, great. My biggest problem about Beolab 90s, I hope they can keep them serviced for the next 20 years. Mm-hmm. Because if they can't keep them serviced for the next 20 years, they're going to be some very, very expensive and heavy paperweights.
Indeed.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they should really do what... Like, I always have trouble a bit where people think the market asks, so therefore B&O should do. But if this is the way to get... Like, if they really want to go down this road, they might as well try and upgrade the stage to something that accepts external speakers, M3 like, that would also work on a theater.
Yeah, so that would be like Stage Mark II type of thing.
Yeah,
probably a Mozart platform.
I personally think the stage is an evolutionary dead end. It got them into the market. I think actually if they worked on the theatre, but they significantly downgraded that. Remember when they did the Beer Visions? The 28-inch Beer Visions. Mm-hmm. They had the MX, which was like the top of the line, did everything. It had Master Link or whatever it was called back then. They actually did a few lines which were known as the ME. So you could get like the ME 6000, which was a detuned MX 8000. It didn't have any of the sort of integration capabilities and stuff like that. So I think if they made a theatre, they could reduce the speaker spec, keep a lot of the drivers, maybe lose some of the power links or wiser capability, and if they aim that at the sort of 48-inch or the smaller TV sizes, they'd fill bedrooms.
Yes. Currently, the stage does that for me quite well, but I would say, especially if you are limited on space and that sort of thing, it'll be enough for a certain set of people anyway. But it's more sales, and at least you have expandability, which at least leaves you a path open to sell more. Because currently, if you have a stage and only a stage, like, okay, you can multi-room, but you can't add anything to the TV experience.
Absolutely.
I think the biggest hole that they have is what you're saying, guys, to have speakers that accompany the surround capabilities of the theater. I think that's something they should definitely look into.
But what B&O need is a gateway drug.
Mm-hmm. Well, theater is a very good gateway drug, even though it is a little bit expensive if you think about it. But then again, I think the theater, just like Andrew Robinson said, it's not for people that are starting from theater upwards.
No,
it's for people that have a plethora of B&O speakers and they were waiting for.
Buy it before the end of the month because it's going up by €500. Like,
shit, that's a lot.
Links to my dealer are down below in the description if you want to buy one of him. Send him an email. Because, it's basically the difference right now between cloth or oak. And personally, I would go oak, but it depends on what you have.
Yeah, I'm going walnut. Soon enough.
Oh, something totally different. Theater.
Yeah, that's nice. Where did you get that, you bastard?
The other nice thing is
no way, that's cool. I want one. Where did you get this, you fucker?
So a friend of mine who's a bloody repair guru genius, and he can sort of go like, I know where the transistors are from the ice power to the yada, and repair it on trace level and shit. He decided, oh well, I might as well start laser engraving too, and he can do a bunch of custom things. And I mean, if you want
that's cool. That's the official icon from the actual B&O's website. Nice. I like it.
Yeah, and his daughter is a graphic designer. So he had to check everything over to see how it looks and that sort of thing. But,
nice. Very sweet.
They changed the icon a little bit by tilting in the corners of the slats, so to give it some rounding like you would in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make this as little or as big as you want, and I sort of chose the middle route.
Nice.
And it works on all surfaces, and I mean, for fairly standard things, if I remember right, it's €50, but if you want like more custom stuff, it's I think it's about €60 to €70, something thereabouts. But if you really wanted to, you could have the whole lower bit be like the Van Gogh Starry Night, if you wanted to.
That is pretty slick. I like that.
So he's also on our Discord now. So his contact details are in the top of his creator channel. But it turned out really, really fucking great.
Yeah, that looks good. Why is it a little greater than, or I mean, much greater than the Bang & Olufsen is? Because it's not painted?
No, it's laser etched. So
it's just the reflection, I guess.
Yeah, part is the light. It's laser etched, and you can make it thicker, darker, or lighter by how long you let the laser burn in the logo.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is sick.
So you can do it more subtly, or you can make it as bold as black, basically. That sort of thing.
I like that a lot, man. See, but you know what B&O should do? They should have that icon show up on the theater here. Like if you select a theater, if you have multiple products in your Beo remote, I think those icons should be illustrated on the little display.
Yeah. And I mean, the idea is that you can customize all your remotes in case you have, I don't know, a bunch of them lying around, and they're not all in the same way. So this one in Dutch says woonkamer, which means living room, and has a harmony above
harmony.
It.
Nice.
So
that is sick.
So I mean, yeah, you can customize it whatever you want, or if you have a birthday gift to your wife, husband, they them,
sure.
whatever. I mean, or if you just have a lot of B&O TVs around, because I mean, he sort of got to the idea of that he has a TV in the kitchen and then a TV in the living room over there, but it's open. But quite often both the remotes end up on the table, and it's like,
which one's which?
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, might as well put on it instead of like a stupid sticker or something.
That's a much better idea.
Yeah.
So you send back the chassis to him to do?
Yeah. Like this is obviously ex postage. But the basic I think was €50. But shoot him an email or become a member of our Discord. Because
very nice.
I really like this, and it's really high quality. And like I said, you can make anything, or you can just be a bit more basic.
Yeah.
But
I tell you what they should do. is they should make this out of ceramic. So you can get ceramics now, which are, if you look at not that
Wouldn't
I'm
it break?
not-
Would break if you dropped it.
yeah, but you've got to make it wipe resistant. You've got to make it wipe resistant, right? So against the jewelry and diamond rings and stuff like that, where they scratch it all up. But if you look at like, not that I'm a big fan of them, like Rado, have you seen Rado watches where they make?
They should just PVD coat the shit. That's it.
Yeah. Because I hate it. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I've got to change BeoVisions every sort of 5 years. Is the remote gets so scratched up and dinks.
You can just change the remote. It's cheaper.
You always got to spoil the fun.
I mean,
That's right.
The Beo4s were pretty much indestructible, but these are a bit more destructible. Like they're not even cat-proof, and the Beo4 was.
It's amazing, right? Your sort of muscle memory on the Beo4.
It's still there.
It's still there, but you get used to the BR1, right? It's
very hard.
It's
I still to this day have a problem with it. Like, okay, am I on the list or a back button, right?
There's certain tactility issues, but to make it, when this first came out, I was very cynical. It didn't feel natural. It thought,
yeah, there's a crease in it.
Very light.
Like, why is there a crease in it?
You know why there is a crease in there? Because there's no other way to tool out for the battery pad.
Yeah. But it was so originally it was so awful against the BO4 because we'd all got used to it. But now that I'm used to the BR1, I've still got a BO4, and it's one of those BO4s, the special ones that can sort of de-regionalize old DVD players.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah, but I hold the BO4 and I go, did I really hold this all the time? Is this really the magic wand? So yeah, it's a lovely remote.
I like it a lot. I think the only thing that they're lacking on this is having the buttons backlit.
Yeah,
that's the only thing. There should also be a motion or a gyro in there, whatever. That if you pick it up, I would like to have an icon or the room that you're in or whatever this is set to.
It needs to be proper. Needs to be proper two-way, and
yeah,
and ideally, I mean, what would save this going into a docking station where you've got a USB-C that will recharge it, because the battery life
charger. Like stick.
I wouldn't even go that far. You know what I would do? I would basically set it up the same way with the magnet on the STB bracket as the old Beocom 2s were. So just a couple pogo connectors. So this would be a little different. Just have rechargeable batteries. You would never have to get in it. And you just click it on the wall bracket or table stand remote that is plugged in, and then it just charges the bloody thing.
Because frankly, as a Bluetooth remote, it needs it, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I get about 3 to 4 months at the most because I have one remote that I use for both rooms. So then it retains connectivity to multiple products. I don't know if that kills the battery faster or not, but I do use it quite a bit. And it's nowhere near as I used to use my remote when I had my old apartment with the BeoLiving Intelligence. Sorry, a BeoLink Gateway, because I didn't have the intelligence back then. And this was used to control the lights and everything else as well. Where now it's just a remote control for the TV and a shower speaker.
It's funny, by the way. I must say, I normally didn't care, but it made me think of you in the last 2 weeks or something. There is a massive difference in quality in batteries.
Oh yeah,
I used some AAA Panasonics and they were dead in 2 weeks, brand new out of the box.
I use only the Duracell.
That's what came out of it. Like
premium.
The Duracell, the normal, relatively expensive. But these things lasted me over a year. The Panasonics lasted me 2 weeks-ish. put some Duracells back in, and it's been nearly 2 weeks, and no low battery signals or whatever.
These ones,
Yeah.
like those are cat's ass, man. They last for a long time. They last for a long time. That's the ones I swear by essentially when it comes to batteries in everything.
Yeah,
So,
it was obviously very frustrating because as soon as you get the low battery thing,
it's over.
yeah, next to nothing works anymore other than your my buttons. They still work, so you can sort of switch.
My button standby and volume, I think, is the only thing you get.
Yeah, but it doesn't say what you're doing. It just it responds
Yes.
to it as such, but you just get the low battery thing.
That would also be a nice thing since there is a two-way communication. If you go volume up and down on a theater per se or any Bluetooth control product, it should show you the value number that you're on the screen. I think that would be sick.
Is
Just
there
like
a
it does
reason why
feedback on.
it can't?
I don't know. I think it's all just the battery consumption nonsense because it can do that through the Halo, but that's on Wi-Fi, right? That's different. That's a different thing. Which is also ironic that you have a TV controller for the theater on the Halo, but you don't have it in the app.
Yeah, which still bugs me to this point because quite often when I have to smoke outside or whatever, and if I see
Yes.
something interesting on TV with the Harmony, I
You
would
would have-
always grab my phone, and I still grab my phone. It's like, damn, I can't do anything
It's not
about
there.
this, and it's
Yeah.
not like I'm going to take my Halo with me outside, especially when
Yeah,
it's raining sideways.
Yeah, so that's one thing that it's a little oversight or underside, whatever you want to call it, on their end when it comes to the B&O theater, and also the my buttons are kind of wonky and weird.
Is it me, or I'm on the test flight version, which is the beta app, but ever since the last upload, like the theater works bad to the point where if you don't like, even let's say it's playing Beo radio or something, and you haven't touched the volume or control in like 30 minutes. I go into the app and it loads like it's a new theater. It says like start listening position. You exit out the app, you close it, you swipe it up, you reload it, and then it's okay again.
What?
My
It's very beta all of a sudden. It seems like they did 3 steps forwards and taken like 5 back all of a sudden.
my sort of read on that. I don't have test flight, but I'm on the beta program, and there's been rumours that there's been a new version coming out, but I haven't received it yet.
No.
I've got a suspicion that hasn't worked out as planned.
Oh, and the captain over on Twitch says that he has that with the normal app. So something is going on. Like it was the software was pretty okay up to like a week ago or so. And
I don't know. My shit works normally here now. I'm not going back. I'm not reverting back, so I don't.
Yeah,
see
but
no
like
nonsense.
The theater is on the 2.3.4 or whatever it is, and I still haven't had the update. And it's sort of like, okay, so nothing changed there. For me, only the app has changed, and the app is just wonky now. Which is the beta app, and I understand there will be testing and bugs, but normally the bugs are like, oh, a picture doesn't load, or the font sort of overlays and touches each other, but you can still, it's sort of like, okay, this is cosmetic. But now it's to the point where like you tap on the theater, nothing happens. You tap again, and it just loads wrong. Like there's no speaker groups, no nothing. And if you control it with the remote, no problem, it's all there. And the theater knows it's all there. It's just the app messing up.
I suspect that they're being are very much under pressure, particularly from forums like this and Beoworld and other places where, you know,
it's a big resource pool of knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. We're their big beta users. We like to shout out what's good and bad and indifferent. I think they listen. And as I
must
said,
reiterate, B&O, we do it with love because we still buy stuff from you.
Well,
we're not hating.
Well, no, I don't think it is. I mean, you know, I said it earlier on. that I spent probably, I don't know, about 8 hours of my time, both in email and in conference with B&O, discussing the Beolab 90s, right? You know, and they had a focus group on that. I gave them my opinions. I'm absolutely 100% certain they listen to forums like this and
Hello.
Be a World and play. Yeah, hi. Yeah, I'll test your freebies. You know, and I think that I really think they're under enormous pressure to try and correct a lot of the stuff that is problematic. I don't think it's due to their incompetence of programming. I just think they you see this from like Beer Care or whatever iteration they use right now, that how I describe a problem may be different to how you describe a problem, but it's still the same problem. They have to interpretate that, and then they have to put a focus group into how they combat the issue that you say that you got.
Yeah,
So,
it may also be that they're writing code in a sandbox and don't have a bunch of physical products there to just live with and test with, because you're working after all. Like, you're not supposed to be sitting there going like, I'm watching TV now, I'm putting my remote away for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh,
but at the end of the day, there's lots of people in this forum who, you know, and a lot of it is, for good or bad, is Masterlink driven. So in its day, Masterlink was absolutely superb.
Oh yeah, there was no
Still
comparison
is.
and competition with anything. Yeah.
But it's analog.
Yeah.
Right?
It's old, but it works.
Right. But to do that in a digital domain takes, I think, a lot more technical and knowledge resources. So I imagine you've got geeks, nerds who are trying to program the Beo app and the theatre and everything else to be intercompatible, and it's actually quite a difficult task.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of us are thinking about how Masterlink used to be great with the BO4. I'm playing an overture CD. You press CD, overture comes on, the TV turns off, the speakers come on, and I listen to a CD, and that's great because it's technically switches in the analog domain. But now they're dealing with digital. I think those sort of issues have sort of and the complexity with everything else has sort of exponentially changed. The guys are sort of like swamped in how to improve things.
Yeah, plus
but I also think that there is a lot of the B&O product that is being sold is also in the mercy of the default internet service providing network and shit, where it's literally garbage. And then people complain that this doesn't work as it's supposed to work. Well, yes, because you're running a high demand network device on a mediocre, if even, network equipment, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize the fact that, well, it's just Wi-Fi, it should work. Well, fuck, it doesn't, because it's just there is not enough data transfer that you have allocatable to these devices if you have them in a multi-room experience. And you start going from 2 to 3 rooms, now all of a sudden, like, there is a lot of traffic that you don't realize that's happening. And if you have kids and they sit in their other room listening to or watching YouTube or streaming movies and whatever, like, there is a lot of load now on your network that you don't even realize that is there. And I think some of that is also
1080p phone, and you go to YouTube and you click that wheel, right, and you touch 8K.
So exactly. So a lot of that, I think that the B&O is a lot up against that as any other manufacturer and company. Don't get me wrong; it's not just B&O.
Absolutely. I mean, I spend a lot of time on the Aralic website, right, and their chat forums, and their number one issue is Aralic get a lot of grief over this, but their number one issue is like, to make their system work properly, you need an absolute shit hot network for it to communicate. And we're not talking just about music transferring sort of over Wi-Fi. We're talking about the control itself.
Yes.
You know, and for it to, you know, for you to punch into the iOS app to play, connect, change the parameters, you know, the tuning of the music, etc., you need to have a decent Wi-Fi connection. And when I say a decent Wi-Fi connection, if you've got some sort of crap BT hub or EE hub, it can be
I can
not
do
good
even
enough.
worse. At my grandparents, they have
You know,
talk,
yeah, right.
which is
You,
horrid.
you need something that can project Wi-Fi terms to make these systems work.
Or best way is to hardwire everything, right? You know, it doesn't look that good sometimes, but I think the wired connector is connection is the best connection you can get, because it takes the guesswork out of all the interference and likelihood of nonsense.
But no,
But
I mean,
you still need a proper switch and a proper router and proper fucking equipment in order to hold the network.
But that's what Auralic says. I mean, my Auralic kit is all wired up through hardwire. My Beolab 90s are connected through Wi-Fi just for software updates if any further ones come through. But everything is hardwired. All right, you know, and I've got, you know, mesh and everything else, and it works great. You know, I very rarely have problems. But as I say, a lot of people they put these systems in, third-party systems, not B&O. They've got the standard Wi-Fi router sort of emitter, and a lot of them aren't just up to, you know, the speed of the internet may be okay, but the Wi-Fi actual systems aren't good enough.
Yeah, and that's the bane of our existence now. That, you know, especially in the houses that you know, I get involved in or used to get involved in. Well, here it's also the same case, where, you know, you look at 4,000 or 5,000 square foot home. That's a lot of, and most of them, you know, in the climate that we're in, they have in-floor heating, and that kills the Wi-Fi between the floors completely, because now you're in a Faraday cage, and most
it's basically
of those
a metal mesh every floor.
Yeah, and everything is done in you know, either on a commercial level I-beam technology, so there's a lot of steel and metal girders and everything else, and then in between comes the rest of the shit. Yeah, the network is very important. People don't realize that, but yeah, and to this day, I still am shocked and surprised that we have one Cat 5, which is white, one Cat 6, which is blue cable usually pulled in, and one coaxial for absolutely no fucking reason anymore, because there is no point. And electricians still to this day pull it like that. So it's just weird. But
yeah, God, I want to make a joke, but I can't find it.
Too bad, so sad.
I know. Where is it? Where is it? Bloody hell! I can't find it. I was trying to make a joke about Steve, but I'll have to do it with this. When we talk about cables, this is what happens to Steve. You'll see it in a second, but it's basically the Beolink 7000.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you something. I've already sent this to Steve, but you know, I've just expanded my theatre system. You know, so I've always had the 90s and a pair of Mark II Beolab 3s. I've just expanded to the 2 heights. So I've got 2 channels of heights left. You know, so four Beolab 3s at heights. And as you've seen from my sort of setup here, just let me just change cameras. Might just go blank. Should be through.
Dangerous. There we go.
Right. So I've got a rug here, right? So, you know, you talk about hiding cables. It drives me nuts, you know, having cables. Are you seeing this right there? Everywhere? Right. So you're in a rented house. You've got 90s. You've got a Auralic system. You've got the theatre there, and trying to drive cables is a real PITA, right? Are you getting the? Yeah, you're getting the photographs up now.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the amount of cables behind the 90s is huge. All right. So you've
Well,
got
the
to
power
run.
cords are not thin to begin with, right?
Yeah, but they're right against the wall, which you can't see.
Mhm.
But you've got XLR,
XLRs.
which
Those
are
are thick.
huge. Those
Yeah.
are thick. 2 of them. Right. You've got the internet cable. You've got a coax cable, which connects to an Oppo.
Yeah.
All right. You've got the Cat 7s, which come from the theatre, as power link. Right. So it goes to the master, and then you sort of then send from the
You get
master
it.
through to the slave. Right.
Yes.
So the bundle is literally about
An inch and a half thick.
well, it's about 30, 35 mil thick. I wrap mine in sort of a RFI sort of sheathing. So that sort of copper sheathing, that copper wrap that you can buy
Mhm.
that they use in telecommunications. I just wrap mine up because we tend to get a bit of how can I put it where I live? It might
Static
be
interference.
no, it might be microwave from the kitchen, but I think it actually stems from in my part of the world military interference.
Oh,
Occasion.
the RAF going like we're looking for the Soviets.
No. The other ones, but yeah, and
Like cup your balls every time the Wi-Fi drops.
yeah. So I'm sure the 77 Brigade are listening in. So hiding cables in a rented house is pretty difficult. So as you can see, I've got a nice rug, and this is going back to Steve at Sounds Heavenly. I ran some Amazon Cat 8 cables underneath that cable up into the Beolab 3s, and man, all I got was hum. Dry, I couldn't use the system. So fortunately for Steve, I just asked him for a whole heap of PowerLink cables and some Cat 7s to B&O standard, and that system just went away. That hum went away. So pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I swear by Steve's cables.
Yeah, they're great.
We got a brand new Beolink 7000 in the shop that they were gonna throw away, so I'm gonna take it, or I'm gonna hide it. I'm gonna buy it something, but I need to get a new battery pack in it. It works 100%. Just needs new battery.
Yeah, it's
So,
it
and
really
those are a
is.
pain in it. Yeah,
Oh, here we
good.
go.
God, it's so opulent. But
you know what though? Like that would be a crazy ass remote for nowadays too. Like if they made a Halo with the motorized display rise,
oh, I would
I
love
think
that'd
that'd be sick.
yeah,
think
that's
that would have
Steve
been
and Mr.
sick.
Rose. So go check that out on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a good interview too.
God, I'm so jelly of the Beogram 7000 in black and that whole stack. It's like
I've only seen it once in real life, and yeah, that's one of the most rare systems I think you can come across, and I think I've seen it only in a Struder museum. I think they have the black one there.
Yeah, it's even rarer than the white one.
Yes, and I had the white one. I sold it for fuck all. I actually traded it for Biosystem 3, which was a good trade back then because it was still worth about $3,000. Yeah, I made some
I
good
think
trades.
it's more now.
Yeah, I made some good trades.
God, if you look at Beogram 4000s and the like, they're still going up in price.
Mm-hmm.
Like a ruined one is now over $1,000 again.
Fucking post Nord series.
Basically, yes. To the point where like somebody pulled out the stylus, right, and all the wiring inside the arm came with. It's like, okay, here you can have that like that for $1,000. And people go, I'll have that for $1,000.
Yeah, that's insane. I'm like I said a number of times on the cast, I'm not interested in doing the vinyl route anymore.
I bought this
had
as
the
a
whole
future classic because it's even older.
I had the whole 5500 system in gray. I mean, yeah, the silver and in white. I've gotten rid of both of them. And
I had a look at that video of Steve's and the black Beosystem 7000, and I thought, oh yeah, okay. And I looked on the web and see what they're going for. And there was one, I think there was one shop in Denmark that was doing a full system, a four stacker for I think it was about 15 or 19,000 krona, something like that.
I don't know how much that is, but I'm sure that's a populous amount.
Sorry, 30,000 krona. Yeah, it was like,
that's 4,000 euro.
Yes, big bucks. The
shit.
Yeah, I personally prefer the white ones. I think if I saw a white one, I'd probably go for it.
But the black one is really special. It's almost like that new anthracite color there. It's not really black. It still has that really.
It's dark blue, like almost purple, because they didn't have the anodization or anodizing figured out to do dark black. The black color came out in the recent, like, early 90s.
Yeah.
Or mid 90s, because I remember they did not do black as good as I've had a set of Beolab 8000s from the early or like mid 90s, and they were in black. Also, the BeoVision 5, if you look at the frame, it was dark purple. It was not black.
No, and it's one of the things where if you look up online for the pictures, it doesn't really do them justice versus real life.
Mm-hmm.
Like also
it never does.
That aluminium top plate with the circle in it, like it still has that grain in it, which is just lovely. But it's nylon. Like if you just photograph it simply like that, it just looks dark, but you don't see all the detail.
Detail, schmetail.
Yeah, it matters.
I mean, I'm probably about a year, maybe 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I actually sold my Beocenter 9,500. And I just bought that because, when I was at that sort of impressionable age, we're talking early 1990s, right? The Beocenter 9000 was like so cool. And, as you sort of like move on in life and you get something which is, you can afford. I got the 9,500, and it never sort of lived up to sort of expectation. So I sold it on, and I've got a feeling sort of like, I think like the Beosystem 7000 looks so cool, but compared to the modern gear, I just think it's going to leave you sort of lacking in a way. It never sort of like scratches that itch, as it were. I mean, one of the things I'd really like to get back into, and I had one when it was out, was the Beocenter 2. I think that's, if you can get, I think, a Beocenter 2, particularly with the dab, and you get one in really mint condition.
What I think that's behind this Beolab 50.
I think that's going to be one of the great, unheard of, unsung heroes of antique.
I agree with you. I'll never get rid of my Beocenter 2.
Yeah, I think I'm going to rebuy and just keep it either in a box or just have it sort of like as a display item. I think they're really great. But I think the older stuff than that, I think that 90s gear, I think that's going to be
unicorns.
My experiences are going to be very, very problematic.
Probably, yes.
That and the 9000 I'll never get rid of. Beocenter 2, Beocenter, or Beosound 9000, those two I'll stick around with for a long time. The only feels bad is that you can't really hook up the Beocenter 2 into the theater for watching DVDs anymore, right? That's the only problem, because it's analog.
Yeah.
Unless you get into some SCART to fucking HDMI converter of some sorts, and then wonder if there's a puck control for that.
But it's
Ask B&O if they have a puck control for one of their own devices.
No, on this thing, right? Because it's nonsensical. Like there is no way that you would be able to, like, yeah, if you can control it, but you won't be able to show the picture.
No, I think there's a great deal of nostalgia on some of this older stuff. You know, I mean, I have like a absolute mint Beogram 8002, right? I've had it all recapped, rebuilt.
Nice.
I've had a few parts custom made on the tangential mechanism, so that this thing is absolutely, you know, it's as good as anything that's out there right now. It's got a MMC2 cartridge, but I plug it up and I go, yeah, I can get vinyl, but and you know, a Beogram 8002 looks as cool as, but sonically it's not inspiring.
I would, yeah, I get what you're saying, but it also depends if you have the sound and or records from the era it was from. I mean, I actually have quite a few records from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, like original ones, and they sound quite good, as in like this is meant for each other. A lot of the new pressings are remastered and redone for modern systems, and it's a lot more bass, and it's just different.
I must be the only customer who can afford a pair of Beolab 90s and not afford vinyl right now. No, I don't know. I think it's great to look back, and I think it's great to look at some of this vintage B&O stuff. You know, it looks incredible. You know, mechanically and construction-wise, it's incredible. But you know, if we're being honest, I don't think it's sounds as good as what they're making today.
No. But other things are nice. The one of the things I very much like about the older record players that still next to no company does now is the internal mechanism for shock absorption. Like I don't understand why more people don't find a derivative of that where you can literally bounce the whole platter and or jump next to it, and it just doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, as I say, I had a BG 8002. I had it serviced, and the guy who does it, he's got his own little business. You know, he can deal with the stuff. He's probably been trained on it for 50 years ago, wherever it was.
Yeah.
You know, and they can repair it. I mean, there was even a little plastic slider which goes on the tangential beam. This is not the beam that you see. This is the beam underneath it. You know, and they can repair that. You know, print it off.
3D printing is a game changer now for recovering the old equipment.
Recap it and rebuild these things so that it's amazing. But I think in terms of sort of high fidelity for what we have today, it's still lacking. But it's nice. It's do I like to put a record on, a vinyl record that I can afford and listen to it? Yeah, it's great. It's quaint. It's nice. It's amazing to see that Beogram mechanism work, the tangential arms and everything, and pick up the first track. You know, once it's done the first side, it'll just then replay everything amazingly. But I think that definitely the world's moved on.
Yeah, well, we're all digital now. I mean, we literally are digital at this moment in time.
Yep.
I mean, yeah. I think most people will stream and always stream, but there's an experience to the doing stuff manually.
There's a certain amount of nostalgia for it, but I mean,
there's a reason we still cook food when you can get pre-done meals for just about any time.
I think there's another aspect. I mean, there's people like me, and there's plenty of other people listening here. You know, we've got to keep this stuff going, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's up to us to keep. You know, we can sell it for parts only, and we can sell it for scrap on eBay or whatever. But I think there's a great deal of responsibility that those people have got. Some of these, you know, antique pieces of B&O. We've got to keep these things going.
Oh, I'd rather keep them alive for sure.
I agree.
On that note, by the way, we're 20 minutes over. I'm gonna call it for tonight. I'll just roll the outro. Thank you everybody for watching. Remember our Substack. Guy will say goodbye properly in a mo. Hope everybody has a good week. I'll be back on Tuesday, and if Willie's around or whomever is around, you're always free to join on Tuesday.
I should be fine.
And see you all in the next one. And thank you very much for coming, Guy. Very
yeah,
much
really
enjoyed.
appreciate it.
Listen, thank you very much for inviting me. I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and
it's a good discussion. That's all it was.
Great.
It was a great discussion.
Thank you very much.
And people in the chat, smash the like button. It helps out a lot, and it's totally free. So, bye, everybody.
Have a good week, everybody. Bye.
You know, when this long night will fade away, and we go back to our old ways, to perfect strangers in the skies. When the sun is going to stretch its arms on the road, turn us again with his shrill call into perfect strangers in disguise. But until then,